Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is to reveal the locations of the majority of places in the UK who will be having protests at asylum hotels this weekend, where the number of locations is already at 26 and rising, with 30 minimum protests, as several areas are having multiple protests over Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, this story was pushed by the Express, and they, as you'll see here, say the migrant, oh, not too far, the migrant hotels are bracing themselves for a wave of protests that are set to sweep the country this weekend. Around 30 demonstrations have been planned after High Court judge ordered the removal of migrants from the Bell Hotel from next month. I'll come back to that and this whole council closing down hotels thing once I read out this story. The hotel has been the focus of protests after one resident was charged with SA, a 14-year-old girl, prompting public concern and calls for stricter oversight. Demonstrations outside the Bell Hotel last month drew up to 2,000 people. I'll also speak about that after I read this article. Highlighting the intensity of local opposition, it comes after new data reveal that 32,059 migrants were living in taxpayer-funded hotels as of June of this year, an 8% increase compared with previous year. So much for smashing the boats, Keir. We are in a worse position than we were pre-election. And Manchester Council has seen the biggest rise in migrants being housed in hotels from 874 up to 1,158. That was from March to June, by the way. That's in a matter of months, about 12 weeks. This is followed by Birmingham, which rose from 1,018 to 1,226 over the same period. It's understand that among the areas where demonstrations are due to take place are Chichester, Cardiff, Wakefield, Tamworth, as well as Gloucester and Maidstone. This is incredible, the amount of smaller places that are now starting to protest. Anti-racism groups held by Stand Up to Racism are scrambling to coordinate counter-protests, sending a stark warning that towns and cities could experience the worst disruption since the riots last summer. They are prepared to protest tonight, Friday, in Bournemouth, Portsmouth, Leicester, Leeds, Orpington, Perth, Aberdeen and Altrincham, two of those cities in Glasgow, in Scotland. Anti-migrant protests and counter-demonstrations are also expected to take place in Bournemouth, Cardiff and Leeds today. Some 14 more in towns and cities, including Bristol, Hawley, Cannock, Nottingham, Bristol twice, Newcastle, Tamworth, Wakefield, Liverpool, Oldham, Exeter, Oxford, Perth and Aberdeen are planned for Saturday. Another two are organised in Manchester and Dudley on Sunday. Next week, hotels in Falkirk, Gloucester and Stockport have been earmarked for action. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick said the people of Epping who protested outside the Bell Hotel and its council have led the way. And I'd quite agree with Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary. Writing in the Telegraph, he said our country's patience has snapped. The 26 towns and cities set to see protests over the coming days, and these are only the ones the Express know about. Bournemouth, Cardiff, Leeds, Portsmouth, Leeds, Orpington, Perth, Aberdeen, Altrincham, Chichester, Cannock, Wakefield, Tamworth, Gloucester, Maidstone, Manchester, Bristol, Newcastle, Stockport, Oldham, Oxford, Nottingham, Liverpool, Exeter, Dudley and Falkirk. That is amazing. That is people taking the power of protest to the nth degree. Now, a couple of things in this article that I wanted to go back and touch where are we? Yeah, the fact that the Bell Hotel has seen 2,000 people at times protesting outside it. I think is absolutely phenomenal. I think they have inspired many across the UK to get out and get active. And as long as people do so in a respectful and legal manner, peaceful, then I am all for this. Because for far too long, those in the far left felt they had sole rights to protest in the United Kingdom. However, the legal right to protest is not unique to any particular persuasion of politics. It is open to everyone. And I am delighted to see that the good people of the United Kingdom are now protesting. And for too long, people who refused to protest, didn't fancy it, often came up with the claim, protesting doesn't work. That was not a reason for not protesting. That was an excuse for not protesting. Because what we've seen with Epping is a result purely of protest. Because the council might want you to believe that it was their duty to close the hotel because of some paperwork, some category that was incorrectly listed and used as. Well, let me tell you, that's a lot of nonsense. That's the excuse they're given to actually close the hotel. And if the good people of Epping and surrounding areas hadn't protested in such numbers and so consistently, then they would never have bothered. And that centre would still be housing male-only asylum seekers, many of them they don't know, and some of them causing problems for the local community. So the reasons and excuses are now redundant. And some people have said, is it really a victory because they will just move them elsewhere? Well, I actually appreciate that point. However, when they run out of hotels, there are no social housing to put them in. The government will then have to put a stop to the main root of the problem, and that is the amount of people coming here, and especially the amount coming here illegally, not here to claim asylum, just here because they want to be a better place and they're not willing to go through the proper channels, and possibly they wouldn't be allowed to go through the proper channels, but through the checks, etc. And the biggest problem we have is when you put a large amount of people, particularly single males, fighting age males, into communities in large numbers, it has a massive effect on them. I found this out myself when I visited Aberdeen and Falkirk recently for protests, and you talk to the people who live there, not the flag-waving lefties who want to counter-protest. Very, very few of them live there. So, and the other thing is this removal of migrants from that hotel. We will see, mark my words, a vast increase in the amount of councils who will now suddenly find that these hotels probably don't use the right category for what they're used for. The use of purpose is not correct. But they will not do this if people sit in the house and say, protesting doesn't work. The tide is turning, but it has to continue to turn so that the good people of the United Kingdom can have common sense and logic back at the forefront of our politics. And recently, we are seeing that tide turn. Let me just remind you, Epping, let me just remind you, the trans issue where a man's a man and a woman's a woman. These are common sense things that were missing from British politics and are now finally turning. It took a group of Scottish women to take the Scottish Government to the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom to finally see sense that a man is a man and a woman's a woman. And if there's a man who feels he's in the wrong body and wants to do something about it, then that's their issue. And they get support for that. But what isn't everybody else's issue is allowing them access to safe spaces for women. That is a clear-cut, common sense approach. Nobody's saying that you have no rights, but to demand that women lose their rights is a completely wrong way of going about it. And common sense is eventually prevailing, but it will not continue to prevail and get better in other aspects of our life if we're silent. So what I would suggest people do is they realise that protesting does work. And whatever your issues are, because right now It's the migrant hotels that's leading the way with these protests organised for the weekend. But that might not be your concerns, or might be your concern, but you have others as well. Well, get a voice, get out, get loud, get protesting. If you want others to see this video, click a like, hit the share, and put some comments below. That helps drive the algorithm for YouTube. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell if you want YouTube to tell you when my videos come out. You also do a clever thing. When this video is ending down this corner, you put in there a video that you've not seen that they think you'll like. The most important thing of all, unless you're the type of person that wants to come here, lose all identification in the way here, and claim that you're running from tyranny, fear of your own life, when the reality is you've left France. And as long as you're not the type of person that allows this to continue and facilitates it, then not you. Everyone else, have a great day. Cheery bye now.